Welcome to this episode of UMBC Mic'd Up. My name is Denise Cardona from the Office of Professional Programs. We're joined by Ian Stockwell, Chief Data Scientist at the Hilltop Institute. We'll be talking about his career path and current role at the Hilltop Institute and the career outlook for health IT professionals and data scientists. We hope that you enjoy this episode. Can you talk about what your role is at the Hilltop Institute?
Sure. So I'm Hilltop's Chief Data Scientist. That means that I kind of oversee all of our methodological products. So, anything that has a more sophisticated statistical method, that's something that it would come under my purview. I would review it, or some of the folks on my staff. We have a couple PhDs. And we have our own research and operational portfolio too, doing probabilistic models, predictive modeling, optimization models, that sort of thing.
Great. Yeah. What did your career path look like prior to coming here?
So good question. So prior to coming here, I was a kid. So I started at Hilltop in 2002 as an undergrad here at UMBC. I started as a web developer, and then I became a database administrator, and then a statistical programmer, and then a senior policy analyst, and so on and so on. So this is my white-collar job, my single white-collar job ever.
That's great.
And here it is 16 years later.
So you love UMBC as much as probably we do too, because I've been at 12. And
I'm not the longest Hilltopper here. So
what do you love most about your job?
So there are times where the work that we do really affects people in a positive way. The reason that I like working with data is that, number one, I'm not really like a people person, I guess, and yet if you build the right kind of underlying framework for policy decision with data, you can guide policy that affects hundreds of thousands of people. And I think not only me, but Hilltop at its finest, that is what we can do, right? To form the basis for the best policy decision possible that has ramifications not only across Maryland, but across the nation. It doesn't happen every day, but when it does happen, that's why we're here, I think.
Yeah, there's a real purpose behind that. It must feel really just fulfilling to be able to do that kind of work and see the results of that kind of work.
It does, and it's here especially, and maybe other jobs too, but I know here, if you want to be a data person and just sit and code all day, you can do that. But you do have the opportunity to meet with stakeholders and see, so my background, most of my work still is with the aging and disabled populations. And to be able to sit in a room with individuals who are being served by the programs that you're helping to build, not only is it powerful and it gives you a sense of meaning and mission, but it makes you a better data scientist, because it's not possible to ask the right questions unless you actually understand what you're trying to do. And I think the biggest, positive impact of this work on me is learning how to listen and going into those stakeholder groups and kind of putting yourself in someone else's shoes and not only understanding the data, but understanding what the data can do. That's unique, I hope.
Yeah, it's not just about the numbers.
So it's not just about the numbers. And I remember distinctly 12 years ago or so now when it hit me. It hit me like a ton of bricks where, you can have these massive data sets laid out in front of you and the realization that these are people, these are points in a person's life that are very profound. I think when you have that realization, and it's not just healthcare, although I think there's more opportunities in healthcare than perhaps in other fields. When you realize that it's an intimate thing, the things that we can see and know about people, it makes you very cognizant of how important your role is and how important the work you can do is and how much trust there is in there, and you are a steward of these data and you're a steward of the programs and trying to make the programs as good as possible so that they can help people. That's why we're here.
That was powerful. Yeah, that gave a lot of what you were saying. It was giving me the chills because we're all affected by this. On some level, we are all affected by this. So it's Switching gears a little bit, can we talk a little bit about, from a hiring manager perspective, what are experts or hiring managers, what are they looking for in candidates as far as their skills and their expertise and traits even, educational credentials, overall experience in getting into this field?
Yeah, so good question. I think it depends. When I think of health IT means a lot of different things, right? So there's more kind of analytical approaches, which is what we do, right? So how do we build accurate forecasts, financial forecasts? How do we build predictive models? How do we solve optimization problems to make programs as efficient as possible? And it's quite different than more operational health IT, working with an Epic or a Cerner, a big health information company that is really focused more on the user experience. I mean, for me, there's always a role for someone with technical prowess, who is a very good programmer, who understands the data, and is just really good at kind of the nuts and bolts of data science. Feature engineering, certainly more advanced kind of data integration tasks, that sort of thing. But I think the harder thing to find is that coupled with a curiosity and a deep sense of kind of mission and caring about the work and the effect of that work. And that's, if you can find that, take it, absolutely.
Yeah, so as a person who is considering enrolling in maybe a graduate program in health IT, or just considering entering the field at whatever level they're at, that is something maybe of consideration that they should be considering. They should think about those things and try to build those qualities out, possibly.
I think so, and it's you got to realize things about yourself too. In the field, if you are a good programmer and you're fluent with just a wide variety of data sets, you can go into any industry you want, right? I mean, you can go into finance, you can go into industry, you can do whatever. And for me, it was early on that I realized that the sense of helping people, in my own little way, that was important. I think having that realization, of what drives you to work, and if you don't have that, then go wherever you want. But if you do, there are ways that you can really have a profound impact on the field without being, a clinician or something like that. You can have just dramatic effects on people's lives, even if you never get to meet them. But sometimes you do, and that's great.
That's powerful, yeah. What does a career in health IT look like? Like, what kinds of things should somebody expect?
If I were to talk to me 16 years ago, I would tell me that sometimes you just got to get through the day. That it's not that as wonderful as those times are where you really get to do work that matters. Sometimes it's going to feel like a grind. And, I don't think that's any different than any other job in any field, but I think it's good to be prepared, and to stick with it. I think that, at least in my experience, hiring kind of younger folks out of graduate school, there's this, they'll put in a year and then they'll bounce to something else and they'll bounce to something else. And I don't think you can see kind of those paths to having an effect in the world if you bounce around that much and you don't spend the time to really understand what it is you're trying to do. I can't imagine. I think that's got to be hard. So yeah, I think just kind of a realization that it's going to take a while to become an expert, no matter how good of a coder you are. You can come out of school being a great methodologist, a great coder, but to actually understand the subject matter, you just got to give it time.
Yeah. What is your opinion of the job outlook for this career?
Oh, the sky's the limit. We're only at the tip of the iceberg. It's fascinating, having been in the field for so long and really getting out and meeting a lot of people, how the media paints where, especially predictive modeling and artificial intelligence is quite different from where the field actually is. I think, if you just read the news and it's like, oh, artificial intelligence is taking over, blah, blah, blah. That's not really the whole story, because I think what a lot of people talk about as artificial intelligence, and some undergrads can just whip out a model, and that really is where we are. There's not only are there too many jobs to fill, but the expertise needed in those jobs, it's attainable to someone who has a good enough education and that natural curiosity and can learn.
Yeah, that's great. That's really what people want to know. They want to know, if I'm going to spend all this money on a graduate degree, is it worth it? There's a great opportunity.
Especially if you're flexible enough. If you come out with a handful of languages, under your belt, if you're good in Python and R and SAS and Stata, or two of those, or maybe just really good at Python, if you can kind of be flexible enough to apply the logical structures and approaches that you've learned through other programming languages or other kind of policy questions, you'll be okay.
Yeah, that's great. So what important qualities, in your opinion, are needed? What skill traits are absolutely critical for somebody entering this field?
To me, the most important skill for an incoming data professional is a true understanding of what that data represents. In healthcare in particular, there are thousands of iterations of what a single record in a single data set can mean, right? Are you looking at a person? Are you looking at a person's day? Are you looking at a transaction? Are you looking at a single procedure that occurred in a hospital? And I think even kind of battle-hardened data scientists, they sometimes lose track of that. Once you lose track of what each piece of that data represents, then you're a step behind. There's no catching up.
You've got to stay in the game.
Yep.
How important is advanced education in this field?
So I think it depends. I think you can be a talented practitioner, a talented data scientist with some level of graduate education, master's degree. There are folks certainly coming out of computer science or information systems as an undergrad that can go right into the field and build kind of their technical chops. I think to get past the practitioner stage and go into a management career or anywhere where you need a vision, that's to me where graduate education really shines, because you can kind of reach out and learn the non-technical pieces of the field, and I think that will help you not only answer the questions better, but start asking some of yourself.
And the last question I have is, what advice do you have for somebody who is entering the field? Is there anything that you would recommend?
Stay curious. If you are new and you're coming in, you've got to be curious, and you've got to ask why all the time. Why does the data look like this? Why is someone even asking me this question? Is there a better approach? Certainly we've all inherited code, and you look at it and you think, there's a better way to do this, and taking that initiative and staying with it and putting in a couple years and understanding kind of the broader context of where the data that you're looking at is coming from and what it represents. That's what you got to do to be successful.
That's great. That's a great answer. Why is it a great time to be in health IT?
It's a great time to be in health IT because more people are understanding the power of data, and they're willing to make decisions based on the information contained in those data. Even 10 years ago, formulating a policy recommendation based on even hard data, let alone like a probabilistic model, would be almost unheard of. And I think now it's accepted, and it's not only accepted, it's the standard now, where if you don't have data to support your decision, you probably shouldn't make it.
Is there anything else that you feel that would add anything value to this video that you think people really ought to know?
The health IT industry is wide open right now. You can get in at many levels, from basic nuts and bolts programming all the way through advanced analytics and artificial intelligence, and it's very exciting. So I think the health IT industry is a great career path for someone that wants a lot of opportunity for the future. I think the health IT industry is ideal for someone that wants to make a difference.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of UMBC's Mic'd Up. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to learn more about the Health Information Technology program at UMBC, please visit us at healthtech.umbc.edu.